just relax? Hello, I'm the Irish guy, Alexander Isak, going to Liverpool. It makes about as much rational logic as if I were to tell you that a wild baboon came round mine for Mother's Day tea. It's like, what? I hate to ruin the dreams for every Liverpool fan out there, but lads, when was the last time a Premier League team qualified for the Champions League and then sold a star player to another Premier League club? When? I'll tell you when. It was Kyle Walker leaving Tottenham for Man City. Yeah, that was 8 years ago. And they had to make the most expensive English player of all time. And the most expensive fullback to ever live. Okay, let's go one better. Strikers are the most invaluable commodities in this sport. Okay then, when was the last time that a Premier League club in the Champions League sold a striker to another English club? And I mean star striker, by the way. I don't mean Man City chuckling in the corner after managing to persuade Arsenal to part with £50 million for an injury-prone Gabriel Jesus, someone who was only ever going to be eating pizza on the City bench now Haaland was in town. Well, anyone? It doesn't happen. Harry Kane was untouchable when Spurs kept qualifying for the Champions League. The first time another Premier League club actually tried to sign him was Man City lodging a £100 million bid in 2021. That's because Spurs had just finished 7th. The last one I can think of was Manchester United signing Robin van Persie from Arsenal in 2012. 13 years ago. Isak jumping from Newcastle to Liverpool would scream of Fernando Torres leaving Anfield for Stamford Bridge. But guess what? That was only after Liverpool had just finished 7th. If Liverpool had instead finished 4th in 2010, ain't no way he was quitting them for Chelsea. Look, I'm not saying there's no way Isak would leave Newcastle because they just won silverware now. No, I'm not some deluded potato. The League Cup means everything to Newcastle fans. But do you think Isak would just be happy to win that every year and nothing else? Nah, you might as well ask Isak if he wants to eat nothing but Weetabix for the rest of his life. Sounds about as boring as getting boobied to read you a bedtime story. Are people forgetting that Liverpool have already sanctioned a £100 million plus transfer for the first time in the history of the club, and now you're expecting them to do it again the very next month? Are you for real? That'd be like seeing a vegan chowing down on a beef burger at a barbecue. Okay, you're gonna assume they've temporarily blacked out and went insane. No. The very next week, you catch them locked in the toilets nibbling a steak. These Liverpool owners have been accused of being stingy, frugal, and only caring about lining their pockets. And now you think this apparently tight geek is suddenly gonna start throwing around cash as if it's confetti? Lads, no football club has ever written a £100 million paycheck for 2 players in the same summer. No. Not even PSG. Because weeks after signing Neymar, this Qatari bankroll super club had to beg Monaco to loan them Mbappe in exchange for an IOU note, promising they'd pay his mental £163 million transfer fee the next summer. Yeah, did anyone think that Newcastle United would be prepared to loan Isak to Liverpool? Even if they were promised a future transfer fee? No, because the optics of that alone would look insane. The Geordies would just read the headline that Isak has been loaned out, and yeah, they would absolutely get sick of their beer. But, I mean, Monaco back in 2018, they clearly didn't care about embarrassing themselves in public because a few months later, they appointed Thierry Henry as manager. A decision which quickly aged like milk in a sauna. Alexander Isak is a world-class megastar who would cost at least £120 million. If there is one football club in the world that is not prepared to write that paycheck now, it's Liverpool after signing Wirtz. So what are these transfer rumours? It's absolute nonsense. How could Liverpool possibly afford to throw £300 million on 2 players in one summer? Are you all feeling okay? Have all of these journalists had their morning milk spiked? Instead of butter, are they scraping poison on their toast? Because this is absolutely insane. It's crazy. And Liverpool fans are actually egging these rumours on. Do you want your club to go financially bust? Honestly, the lack of self-awareness from some. It's been like a 12-year-old writing a Santa Claus list and asking for an Xbox, an iPhone, Gucci clothes, Louis Vuitton shoes, keys to a yacht, and also to have his breakfast served to him by Will Smith. Yeah, look around. You live in a 1-bedroom flat with your mum. You've been sleeping in the wardrobe since you were 6. And sometimes dinner is just toothpaste on bread. I don't think Santa is squashing the Fresh Prince down your chimney. Signing Isak and Wirtz in the same summer would scream of Real Madrid in 2009. Who honestly, lads, went nuts. I remember being shocked by them back then, because after a nightmare season where they bottled the La Liga title after losing the last 5 league games of the season, one of them was when they unforgivably let Barcelona score 6 at the Bernabeu. Yeah, they decided right then that they'd had enough and went insane, smashing the world transfer record twice in a week for the last 2 Ballon d'Or winners. Seriously, the world transfer record had not been touched since 2001 when they bought Zidane. But here they were, pulling off a world record coup for AC Milan megastar Kaká for £56 million. He was the most expensive footballer to ever live. For 2 days. Because 48 hours later, the club wrapped up an £80 million move for Man United winger Ronaldo. And they weren't done there. In comes Xabi Alonso and Karim Benzema from Liverpool and Lyon for 30 million each. It was an insane window where they just went crazy. They even tried to buy both Frank Ribery and David Villa. Real Madrid went absolutely bonkers that summer. Are Liverpool Real Madrid? No, lads, when I was growing up, Liverpool scared me because they were always eyeing up Newcastle strikers. Seriously, every single summer, club record signing Michael Owen was sneakily trying to worm his way back to Anfield. I actually remember back in 2007, the actual Newcastle United chairman was caught on camera in his car telling Liverpool fans that he would carry Owen back to Liverpool for £9 million. And Owen has since told the world on Twitter that Alan Shearer was once trying to force a move to Liverpool after the club had signed Patrick Kluivert. But of course, the moment that broke my heart was when Liverpool won the race for Andy Carroll, stealing a Geordie number 9 for a British record £35 million. I mean, it kind of shows how quickly Carroll turned into an injury-prone pony at Anfield. And the following year, the Magpies literally tried to get him back on loan, which is hilarious. He was a British transfer record fee. It would be like Steven Gerrard asking Man City if they could have Jack Grealish back on loan in 2022. I'm pretty sure Pep would have sneezed in his face. But yes, Liverpool always scared me when it came to poaching Newcastle strikers. It didn't stop there. Oh no, after Loic Remy had an unbelievable loan spell at St James's Park from QPR, oh yes, the Magpies were surely going to make the French strikers deal permanent, right? Of course, I mean, Christ above. They'd already agreed a transfer fee for the bloke 18 months earlier when he was at Marseille, only for him to weirdly and greedily chase the bag at a rubbish QPR. Clearly, Newcastle wanted Remy long term. But then Liverpool steal in and agree an £8.5 million deal with QPR, and oh yes, this sensational Mini Anelka, who all the Geordies have fallen in love with after a 14-goal season. Yeah, he was now doing a medical with Liverpool on their pre-season tour of the States. He failed it, by the way, but hey, it didn't matter. His head was no longer with Newcastle, and there was no chance of him coming back now. He joined Chelsea instead. Oh, wasn't that cute? Oh yeah, and Liverpool were also in the race for Demba Ba back in 2012, forcing this Senegalese fan favourite to balloon his ego and ask for way more than his £50,000 a week. I mean, this is a guy who, before Newcastle, finished bottom of the league with West Ham after failing trials at Swansea, Barnsley, Watford, Stoke and Gillingham. Somebody who was an untouchable shoe in football circles before Newcastle rescued him on a free, and yet interest from clubs like Liverpool scrambled his head. I mean, to be fair, they wouldn't sign him and he'd instead grow up to score the most painful opposition goal ever scored at Anfield. I mean, to this day, Steven Gerrard is probably so traumatized by this man's name that he probably has a panic attack when stuck in a field with sheep. But yes, Liverpool were always the club to sniff around Newcastle strikers. But not again. Not now. Things have changed. Newcastle United are one of the rising clubs in English football. They do not sell the best players anymore, and certainly not to other English clubs. It would be absolute lunacy. Liverpool fans seem to think that Isak is so desperate to join the Reds that he'll submit a transfer request to squeeze this move through. Look, yes, Liverpool are one of the most famous clubs in the world, and most players are in awe of the aura and lure of the club, having grown up seeing some of the best players in the world play there, having witnessed some absolute epic Champions League nights. That is what makes Liverpool so attractive. Yeah, Isak, he doesn't know about any of that because he doesn't watch football. Never has. I mean, seriously, Andy Carroll was forced to go to Liverpool. He didn't want to leave. First because he was a Geordie, yes, but also Liverpool meant nothing to him. He never watched them on TV. He since admitted when he joined them, he had to Google his teammates. He never heard of any of them except Gerrard and Carragher. Seriously.
When I was in the helicopter down to Liverpool, I was like, I know Stevie G, I know Carragher, who else? My agent at the time had to tell me, and I would get it on Google and find out the team. So that's actually a true story. It's bad because it's Liverpool players, but it's not disrespectful. I just literally didn't watch football, so I didn't know.
Think how little you must know about football to have to Google Luis Suarez. Wait, hang on a second. Joe Cole was in that team. Joe Cole, who'd just been marketed as being more talented than Messi. And Carroll didn't know who he was? But yeah, that's Isak too. He's admitted he doesn't know football. We saw that in Euro 2020 when he didn't have a clue who Gary Lineker was. So like Carroll, he doesn't have a clue about Liverpool or their epic history. He's not going to watch famous Champions League nights at Anfield on the telly. I can guarantee you that a 5-year-old Isak will not have watched a single minute of their epic Istanbul comeback of 2005. He will have never watched Owen, Torres, Suarez, Sturridge. No, he has no lasting childhood memories of Liverpool. So can you just relax on this? That Liverpool superpower of childhood nostalgia is not going to work on this bloke. He's as cold and unemotional as a broken fridge. Why would you leave one Champions League club in England for another one? Especially considering that Isak himself has been at Newcastle when they finished above Liverpool. I'm sorry, but there's absolutely no chance that the Reds sign Isak. Absolutely zero chance. So can we all just relax? Here comes another one. I'm so sick of it. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know in the comments Is Isak going to go to the... He's not, no, is he? He's not, but let me know in the comments. If you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as always. I'll talk to you in a while.